So for those of you who don't know me, oh, hi. My name is Jeff Sweat, and this is How to Be Famous in 6 Easy Steps. So first, though, a little bit about this fella and his co. Like a lot of you, I've been in the PR biz for a long time, working with agencies that you definitely know, and then some that hopefully you will know soon enough. But there's more. I always like to get a little personal if I can. So there's actually more like me. I am one of 7 boys. I am not even the tallest one in my family. Apparently, I now own a hotel. I took a trip up the coast last summer in California and then came away with a Victorian hotel. We had no idea what we were doing, but it's actually going really, really well. So, I started as a tech journalist long enough ago that some of the people I covered are now influencing elections. So I went on to Yahoo, where I pioneered their use of content marketing for advertisers and agencies. I also took storytelling kind of literally, and I wrote a couple of books about a world where no one lived past the age of 17. And I guess that was a little too literal, because I ended up in a coma during COVID and for a month, and I'm very lucky to be alive and very happy to be here with my friends. So I think what we're doing here is essential, not just for us, but for our agencies, because advertising has changed. We can't count on media dollars to get the work out. In order for the work to work, it has to have news value. And agencies get that a little bit, but they don't quite know how to tap into it. My experience is that most agency people think they understand PR because they understand advertising. As we all know, that isn't the case. They know enough to be dangerous. But we can play a vital role if we can kind of play our cards right. I'm going to show you a real-life communications crisis that we happen to have on video.
I find you pop quiz, hotshot.
Your team brings you some work and you know it's decent, but not good enough to get coverage because you saw another ad like that 3 months ago and they say, PR the hell out of it. What do you do?
What do you do? What do you do?
So is it me, or is just PR getting way more intense? So I'm going to ask the question. So I'm going to give you a couple options. Raise your hand as one applies to you. Do you say no? And then you piss everybody off? Okay, 1. Rebecca would, of course, I know. Do you say yes, and then it doesn't get covered like you knew it wouldn't, and then you piss everybody off? All right, good. I think C happens a lot more often than we want to raise our hands. Is there a C? I'm going to ask this question really quickly. Shout it out. Is there a third option? What's a bag of journalists? What'd you say? Oh, a little black book. Yes, there are. Okay, so there's probably quite a few C's that we all have up our sleeve. But I'm going to say one which I think we don't think of often enough, which is work with your team to make it newsworthy. The reality is we, as journalists, or as PR people, know that probably to a 90-95 percentile, whether work is going to get covered or not. Beyond that, we can probably tell you exactly who's going to cover it. It's just the facts of our relationships and our lives. And after being pitched hundreds and hundreds of times as a journalist, pitching hundreds and hundreds of times and receiving thousands more as a journalist, I can say one thing, that there is no one who will cover that story if it is not inherently interesting. And in other words, you can't spin a story into existence. This is a really hyperactive remote, so I'm sorry. I'm hovering over it. I think it responds to heat. Don't move. All right, cool. So we really can't. I think when people look at PR, they see what we do as this sort of magic at the top. It just sort of happens, and and it responds to the value that our counterparts in the agency perceive. But really, we know that it's based on lots of factors that in some ways are beyond our control. It's obviously creativity, the types of clients we work with, our company culture, and even our agency core. These are essential to PR, and we try to ignore it sometimes. So what I wanted to focus on is not just telling your story, but helping create a story worth telling. because if your agency wants to be famous, they're going to have to work for it too. And that means they're going to need to bring in your secret weapon, which is you guys. And if John Stamos says it, it must be true. But you guys are the secret weapon. You understand the PR world. You understand the world that your teams are trying to crack. So you need to be part of that. So first of all, I lied. They aren't easy steps at all. But they are important, and they're important that you be involved in them. So, step one, don't drink the Kool-Aid. This is really hard in an agency where if you push back on something that your boss loves or the CCO loves, whoever, you're viewed as disloyal. It can certainly affect your career if you don't do it right. But you have to keep pushing because this is so crucial. You have to be able to preserve your impartiality because that is your own secret weapon. One of the ways, I'm going to do a list of statements that might be on your bingo card, and please raise your hand if these apply to you. The clients really need us to make this big. Yeah, okay, cool. Great. If creativity covered that other work, then they should definitely write about this. Yeah, cool. Can you ask the reporter why they didn't cover it? Oh yeah, that's a fun one, right? And you're like, well, because it wasn't good, dummy. All right. We spent a shit ton of money on this. It should be worth some coverage, right? Okay. And this is one of my favorites. I'm over the ad trades. What I'd really like to be in, keep going if you raise your hand. The Wall Street, oh, sorry, that was good because it's good. What I'd really like to be in, my little A's now. The Wall Street Journal, Fast Company, Complex, Financial Times, New York Times, Time Out, Refinery29, Fortune, Axios, CNBC, MSNBC, CNN, NBC, or. Everything except for the places where they probably should be showing up with that particular piece of work. And the reality is, it doesn't work. I once had agency founders tell me that they wanted to be on the cover of GQ. I know, right? That's what I thought. I started laughing and I realized they weren't joking. And were they famous? No. Were they stylish? Not really. Were they really jealous that David Droga was on the cover of Esquire? Yes, they were. Funny thing is, I actually did get them a front cover on Fast Company, and you guys know how hard that is. But when pressed, they could not deliver the elements that they needed to provide to make the cover. And in 9 months, it never happened. So if your bosses want an ad of the week, they should make an ad of the week. If they want to be outside of the trades, they need to do things that are inherently interesting to people outside the trades. And that's the reality of what we need to bring. Again, this is the impartiality. We have to pitch for the media landscape as it really is, not the one we want it to be. We can't. We're kind of always pretending that things can work out, but we have to make sure that we are putting a story forward that actually makes sense for those people. So, step 2, make things forwardable. Creativity is the single biggest driver of PR. We all know that. And if you don't have great creative, everything else you do, sorry, this is great, doesn't really matter. It certainly makes your job harder. I'm going to ask this kind of, you think about this. This is a scale that I show my clients. Heineken created this to judge their work from 1 destructive to 10 legendary. My personal experience is that most agencies, even some really good ones, on most days are hitting maybe a 6. If you are anywhere above that with any frequency, then congrats to you. But my personal feeling is that you typically need to be at 7 or above to get covered. Groundbreaking, contagious, cultural phenomenon, legendary. And if you have a 10, you will know it because you will hear about it from your friends before you ever read it in the trades. So there's no disguising some of these things. We get so attached to the work we do. We love it because the client tried to kill it, and we fought for it, and we didn't have enough budget, and we still ended up making it, right? Like, we love it, and there's so many great ways that work can be great. But the thing is, Second it leaves that door, all that's left is the work. It has to stand on its own. Not only does it have to be good, it has to be better than everything else the journalist is reading that day. So that's the reality, again, of where we are. I'm going to ask you guys personally, and please answer this, but really quickly if you can. What kinds of things do you share on your own social media? And if not, I'll just start filling them in. Especially from a corporation. Anyone share anything from corporations? Brands?
When people mention us.
Yeah, when people mention you? Great, cool. Sometimes when people say, I'll share it if it's funny, I'll share it if it matters to me, if something resonates to me, if it reflects my own personal values. But the thing is, we won't share it more than that because it reflects on us. It's our cred. It's who we are out in the world. So if you struggle to share things from brands, think of how much harder it is for a reporter. That bar is even higher because it's not only their cred, it's their job. Their taste is what they are bringing to the world. And so a really important thing for you to ask yourself and to make sure your team asks it is, would you share this work if you hadn't worked on it? And if that answer is no, then we need to talk about how we can make it better. We cannot expect things that we wouldn't care enough to be cared about by other people. Step 3, find your way. Find something that is unique about you, something you do better than any other agency, and build on it. I hear this expression all the time. We're the cobbler's children, which is kind of a cliche, but it feels true sometimes. I always hear every agency I talk to is very apologetic and says, you know what, we're so good at marketing for other people. It's just going on its own. It's not even me. I'm not touching it. So anyway, we don't market ourselves well. And partly it is because we're making shoes for other people. But the other thing is, we're not actually selling shoes when we are PR people for an agency. We are selling a way to make shoes. So instead of being an agency that goes B2C, that sells products, or brands that sell products, we need to be B2B. We need to talk about the way we do things and how we're unique. That is what we do. Yes, the work will do a lot of that for us, but when they have to choose between 3 really good creative shops, it's going to come down to what is it that makes you different. So you need to find that, and it's usually through positioning and thought leadership. Positioning is a really hard one because you can say almost anything. It's every positioning statement I hear is either super technical if it's on the media side and it's all about shifting paradigms and things like that. If it's on the creative side, it's like we're a collective of doers, dreamers, and thinkers who move at the speed of culture, and we like to make stuff. And and I would say, congratulations, you have described an agency. So what's yours? What's your way of getting there? Whoop, this is too good to let it play without. So, good rule of thumb is if you hear, if your positioning could apply to anyone else, then you need to go deeper. And you get deeper and you get specific. And that can be literally the kind of work that you do or do not want to do, the kinds of clients you do not want to work with. As a positioning statement, I think you could hardly do worse than this.
I don't want to sell anything, buy anything, or process anything as a career. I don't want to sell anything bought or processed, or buy anything sold or processed, or process anything sold, bought, or processed, or repair anything sold, bought, or processed. As a career, I don't want to do that.
So don't do it then, right? But get clear on this. This is really tough for us as agencies because we are shapeshifters. We take on our client's identity. We, if they want us to be a digital shop, well, I guess, hey, we're a digital shop now. They bring us a big enough check and they want to do experiential. You know what? We also do experiential. And you can change from the kind of agency that you thought you want it to be to something else because we usually don't stop and think about that. And that's okay. It's okay to be able to tell your stories, your client stories. That's why they pay us, right? But great agencies are the ones who learn to tell their own. If you look at any iconic agency over the past 20, 25 years, you will find every one of them has a really distinct point of view on the world and a clear, unique origin story. If you don't have that, you can make it. That's the good news. But you gotta work at it. This is like a big deal. And then you bring that positioning to life through op-eds and speaking to show how you think. So if work is gonna be, work shows what you can do, op-eds and speaking show how you think, what you want to be able to do. Of course, most of us who've pitched know that you have to be really careful with how self-promotional you are when you go out to most of the publications. Ad Age, Adweek don't allow you to promote. And so you're basically gonna you can't use case studies, but you do have to create a problem for which you are the marketer's only likely solution. Or as I tell my clients, create a hole in the marketplace that's exactly the shape of your agency. Build that demand and then fill it. Step 4, build your story with culture. And this one really sucks because it's not something you control really in any true sense. You advise. And it can't be done with positioning. It can't be done with pitching. You have to essentially create have an environment that you can define not only just in terms of best places to work, like do we have ping pong tables, good time off policy, whatever it might be, but as a barometer and a driver of greatness. What do I mean by that? It means that any agency could have a lightning in the bottle kind of moment. They have one huge hit that defines them for years. But in order to have that lightning strike again and again, and in the same place, you have to have a great culture. And that is where you're going to have to get together with your team and start to decide, take a close look at those elements. And this is something I would absolutely recommend that you do. So identify your culture and ask, does it by itself create PR? And if not, let's figure out how to do it. And the cool thing is, if you can do that, then you start to create these cultural artifacts, things about the way you do things that not only drive PR, but they are PR. They are PR worthy in and of themselves. That's your ultimate goal. And again, I know Ollie's gonna be talking a little bit here, but like culture drives so much of this, so we can't ignore its role in what we do. Step 5, I think I might actually make this, that's cool. So attract the clients who will make you famous. When I was at Deutsch LA, I was fooled into thinking it was a much better PR person than I really was because we had VW as a client. So everything we wrote, everything they did got covered, like even crappy dealer, or like not crappy, but throwaway dealer ads. They sneezed, it got covered. And then went to other places. I was like, wow, this is a lot harder without a Volkswagen, you know? And so that means that if we don't have those clients, as I should say, the kind of client you want is not just one that pays well, but you want one who is hungry for great work, will give you great exposure, or both. For a PR person, those two elements are important. If they don't offer those things, then they should pay you a ton of money so that you can find the clients who do. And there's lots of ways to do that. You can do spec work for brands you love. You can do pro bono, but not just pro bono for a nonprofit where your CEO's on the board, ones that actually will give you good exposure and good marketing. Be a little mercenary there on that one. And then finally, do your own work. You have this incredible talent in your own building. Are you tapping that? When things are slow, are you guys automatically going, well, you know what, if we just did a cool piece of content? The best work I've ever done, or my favorite anyway, didn't involve a press release at all. Once was when I talked Fast Company into hosting a conference at 72 and Sunny. The other one was this one, which is we fed 1,500 drunk people in Cannes. And I'll tell you the story about why that was so crucial, but it was a big, hard experience. 5 a.m., drunk, hungry, need to feed people. So we took over a fleet of motor scooters, fed 1,500 drunk people, got a ton of PR, and I was heavily involved. Not only was it my idea, but I actually shot the case study movie one-handed from a scooter at night. So when I say get in the middle of it, please do. And it's the last thing, I'm gonna go a tiny bit over, but that's okay, I hope. Which is, for all of this to work, you have to get into the room where it happens, right? And this is hard because ad agencies, I like to put PR people in like a teeny tiny corner in a teeny tiny box, and they just pull you out when it's ready, when they need you. And so what that means is you're going to have to get involved early and to build the relationships so you can be in that room. One of the things, I'm actually going to skip this, but anyway, Ollie and I were just talking right before this. One of the ways the Mischief continues to get PR is they involve him and the teams to provide guidance. They're tapping into that expertise. And the agencies who do are putting PR at the center of everything they do. So get involved early, talk to your teams, make sure that you know what's going on, don't get blindsided, be the most informed person or team in the building. Work with them early, typically before it goes to client, before it gets baked, because then you can come in and say, hey, what if we tried this? What if we made this tweak to this one? What if you got involved and helped them pick the one that would provide the most news value? And then, of course, the more time you have, the better strategy you can develop. So it works out all the way around. Ask tough questions. In my virtual booth, there's some diagnostic tools that I've put in there, and then one of them involves questions you ask two people to your teams. Ask them to do it themselves, and score this on a scale of 1 to 5. But it's all those sorts of questions like, is this something that's never been done before? If not, does it do it better? And then, of course, the question I told you to ask: would I share this on my own social media? And then based on that, you start to understand what that work merits. And it also makes them understand and makes them accountable for bringing you ideas that are in fact PR worthy. So finally, move beyond yes and no. We don't just have two choices. And basically ask, how can we make this better? And I promise you, if you can do that, it will change your relationship with your internal teams. You'll stop being the obstacle, and you'll start becoming the person who makes it possible. And that, my friends, is a very cool place to be. So I believe every presentation should end with Hulk throwing a bear. Soak it in. You are my people, and you can do this. Thank you so very much.